Hello and welcome to the celebration opening of the newly refurbished Thackray Museum of Medicine here in Leeds. We are so excited about this opening. We've been waiting for so long, much longer than we expected for obvious reasons to open, and we can't wait to show you this museum because it really is a museum for everyone, and it's a museum about getting everybody involved in the fight against disease and the fight for health. And what better place to start it than here in Becket Street Cemetery in Leeds, the first publicly funded cemetery in Leeds. Real testament to the city's ongoing attempt to deal with the challenges of industrial disease, industrial health and industrial well-being on a scale that had never been imagined before. And it's a history from which our museum grew. You can see here the guinea graves which were erected for people who were too poor to afford their own grave. For the price of one guinea you could be buried next to your neighbours, often strangers, in the newly growing city, in Dissenters Row here in Becket Street Cemetery. And over the years, if you read the dates on the graves, you can even see, when they get closer together, how infectious disease, epidemics, pandemics affected the lives of people, and understand that the story we find ourselves in today has got a much longer view to be taken. And that's what our museum's all about. And in fact, when Thomas Temple here and Elizabeth Gray and Margaret Hutton and all the others in this guinea grave were being buried in 1902, Charles F. Thackray and his partner Henry Scurrell Wainwright were opening their pharmacy shop in Great George Street, setting out on their journey, at first as chemists, but later to become partners, innovators and manufacturers of medical supplies, until they were at the forefront of medical innovation in Leeds. And when they sold their company in the 90s, in a moment of great vision, they took a big chunk of that money and the proceeds from that sale and put it into a museum which would be a lasting testimony to the city's contribution to medical innovation, but also to inspire its future generations to be at that forefront, to take a lead and to make the world about them a better one and a healthier one. So it's with great excitement I welcome you here to Leeds, to the heart of the story, to tell you about our wonderful new museum. Come with me.
Hello there, my name's Neil Kuiper-Holmes and I'm the chairman of the board of directors of this superb museum, and it's my pleasure to welcome you on this virtual tour, see what we've got here. You know, when I was a young medical student and medical doctor here, I used to walk up and down these stairs behind us thousands of times. So to see the whole thing change into what it is now is just wonderful for me, and also reflects the vision of our founder Paul Thackray in building what we have now. To see it with the 11 newly refurbished galleries is just mind-blowing, and I'm sure that you will enjoy the tour just as much as I have done. Now, I'll be back later on to give you some little-known medical facts, but just see how many you can see as you wander around our galleries. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. I certainly do.
Everybody has a part to play in the story of medicine and healthcare, and over 200 people, inspired by our amazing collection, have helped us tell the story of medicine, past, present and future. We start by asking you to leave behind the health innovations of the last 200 years as you travel back in time to walk with the people of Disease Street, struggling to keep clean and fight killer infections such as cholera in an overcrowded Victorian Leeds. We follow the story of Hannah Dyson, who becomes entangled in mill machinery and ends up in the operating theatre, where the surgeon uses his basic tools, his speed and his strength, trying to save her.
So this gallery is called Disease Detectives, and here we look at the people who have discovered and explored the microscopic world. By exploring the microscopic world, it really helps us to understand public health, disease, develop vaccines, to understand our own bodies. In and around us are millions of microorganisms which really both help and hinder our health.
How did the Victorians begin to tackle the health hazards that were prevalent on their streets? They set about improving air and water pollution, sanitation and housing conditions, contaminated food and the spread of disease.
Hello, my name's Stephen Fry, and I'm speaking to you about the wonderful Thackray Museum of Medicine in Beckett Street in Leeds. I don't know if you know it. It's one of the wonders of the very rich world of museums in the United Kingdom. And I don't imagine there has ever been a time when the curiosity of us all has been more aroused by the idea of medicine and its history. We've become aware, thanks to the pandemic, amongst many other things, of the role that medicine plays in epidemics and in diseases, in the twin sciences which particularly interest me, of virology and of epidemiology. And in particular, I think it would be great to revisit the museum and, for example, just follow the story of vaccination, because we live in a time when there are those who spread out extraordinary false nonsense about vaccination, which is deeply worrying for the health of the world. When you consider some of the great triumphs, like the defeat virtually of smallpox was entirely done by vaccination, and these stories are some of the most exciting stories in human history, and a medical museum, a museum of medicine, is such an important way of telling that story to the young and to the old like me who are still curious about things. So sorry I've taken so long to talk about it, but it is something I'm very passionate about, and I do encourage you all, when Thackray manages to reopen, that I encourage you to visit it, and meanwhile check it out online.
From anaesthetics to organ donations, there's a huge range of innovations which have changed our medical landscape. In this gallery we explore some of them and how they've impacted on our lives, going from Roman right up to the contemporary day.
The Thackray company started life as a chemist in central Leeds, and gradually, by working with LGI surgeons and other medical professionals, they built a reputation for designing, manufacturing and selling innovative medical instruments and equipment. The last director of the company donated his private collection to start this museum.
A lot of medical developments have come out of times of crisis. When there's an epidemic, a pandemic, there's outbreaks of war, there's moral crisis relating to sexual health. These galleries explore those themes through our objects. In our temporary exhibitions, we explore the innovations of tomorrow. It used to be that diverse bodies were something to be corrected, to be brought in line with normal. But what is normal anyway? What's normal to each of us is really quite different, and it changes throughout our lives. In this gallery, we work with 9 groups of people to represent their normal and the stories that they want to share about their lives, their experiences and their bodies. Our hands are really important, and without a mirror, they're one of the parts of your body that you'd regularly see. As I'm speaking to you now, I can see my hands in front of me. But what would you do if you didn't have your hands or you needed replacements? In Leeds, we have one of the leading centres for hand transplants in the country, and we've worked with the staff there and one of their patients to create a film to explore that experience.
Who keeps you healthy and cares for you when you're sick? In this area, People share their stories of self-care and medical practice, and we celebrate the wealth of health heroes, past and present. Could you be the next? In the apothecary shop, our unique collection of 17th and 18th century drug jars reveal the beginnings of the English pharmacy and general practice, with their intriguing recipes, animal, mineral and vegetable, from all around the world. And the story continues through to the chemists of today.
Hello again. You might not be aware that the lungs of an average human being would cover the size of a tennis court if really spread out. How do they fit all that inside the chest?
Oh, lovely.
We've got the height adjustable sinks that are very easily used by wheelchair users. We also have the facilities of a hoist system. The bed comes up so that you've got the ease of changing.
Well, we've tried to stock things that you can't get anywhere else. All the suites in here are body parts. They're related to parts of the body, which is relevant to us because that's what we're about. And our coasters are the tea, the famous tea, and they're branded to us as well. We range from 50p and we go all the way up to 45, which 45 is our top range product.
The Wolfson Foundation is delighted to have funded the museum, and not least for its really crucial, important capital infrastructure project. We really liked the emphasis on public engagement with medicine and with science. And we also very much value the thoughtful way in which the museum places its historic collections front and centre and gives the public really wonderful access to those intriguing, important artefacts dating back several centuries. But I think this year has shown more than ever how crucially important a museum like the Thackray really is. On the one hand, we see the challenges from a financial perspective and a sense of reminding us that we shouldn't take these wonderful institutions for granted. And on the other hand, this theme that underpins the museum's work, the relationship of society to medicine, is never more important. And as we navigate the next year or two, the messages and the education and the learning that is coming from the museum will be absolutely crucial for the communities in Leeds and of course far beyond that as well. So we wish you well and are delighted to have been involved.
Hello, I'm Ian Mallinson and I chair the Thackray Medical Research Trust. The Trust was set up in 1990 and has a number of objectives, but its first and primary objective is the establishment of the Thackray Medical Museum here in Leeds. Since 1990, the Trust has been able to support the museum with many projects, some in relation to the magnificent building in which it's housed, some in relation to the collection, and generally in expansion and overall improvement and development. So it was that when we were approached by the museum board and executive to provide matched funding for a Heritage Lottery Fund bid, we felt that this was an excellent opportunity to support the museum and provide a step change going forwards. Throughout the project, we've worked closely with the board and executive and were represented on the Capital Development Committee, which oversaw the project itself. We were also able to provide further funding for refurbishment of the area of the museum now known as the Nerve Centre. The museum, on reopening, has confirmed to the Trust that this was funding that was very well spent, and we are delighted to have been able to play such a significant part in the achievements. Our congratulations go to all involved for their hard work and dedication, and we have absolutely no doubt that the museum has a very healthy future. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Rennick. I'm the Area Director for the North of England for the National Lottery Heritage Fund. It's fantastic to see the doors to the Thackray Museum of Medicine reopening to the public following its fantastic revamp. Thanks to National Lottery players, without whom our investment of £1.6 million wouldn't have been possible. The brand new galleries will enable the local community and visitors from far and wide to explore the stories behind the museum's important collections and uncover even more about their own heritage. The museum is home to a host of wonderful objects with international significance, and its refurbishment will ensure that visitors can discover the wonders of healthcare and medicine, a subject that has never been so captivating given the current world we live in. We're very proud to have invested in the museum's redevelopment, which will allow everyone a chance to engage with this timely and crucial heritage, and it will play an important part in the North's cultural assets, as well as the regeneration of this part of Leeds. Thank you.
So why is this museum important to me? I think you only have to look at where we are and what it means for the people around us to understand the potential that engaging with medicine and medical and history can have for helping people unlock real, meaningful change around them. This street we're on, it's a lively street. There's choppers in the air, there's sirens going past all the time, cars 24 hours. It's a street full of life, but it's a street full of challenges as well. It's 1 mile from here to Quarry House at that end. Quarry House hosts the Department of Health and Social Care, national directorates of the NHS. It is state power over medicine at its highest. This end of the street, back-to-back houses that date from the 19th century, and one of the most deprived and most challenged communities in West Yorkshire. The highest household income on this 1 mile street, £30,000. There isn't a family here that earns more than £30,000, which is a fraction of the salaries that are paid at that building at the end. But look at the opportunity along this mile. We've got the wonderful medical legacy of the Thackray Museum. We've got the biggest teaching hospital in Europe. We've got the Wellcome Trust Brenner building doing international cutting edge technology to fight against cancer. There are opportunities for education, for employment, for healthcare, for well-being, and for generally lifting the whole life of the community. So what holds them back? Sometimes it's just not having the reference point or the significant other in their social circle to understand that you can make a difference in medicine, that medicine can be for you. You can have a career in it. You could be the next virologist to discover the vaccine that fights the next pandemic. So for us, a museum that sits here at the beginning of that medical mile only has one option, which is to be the threshold, the first point of contact, where people can come in and understand that medicine is for them. It is something they can have an influence on, and it's something that can change their lives and the lives of the people around us. And we call that building people's medical capital. And everything we've done in this museum, every display, every program, every activity has one objective, which is to get people's medical capital a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher, until the gap between the people here at this end of the medical mile and the people down there in their offices in Quarry House is much smaller, much fairer, much more equitable, and both sides are listening to each other. And for listening, you need a space where that listening and that conversation can start, and that's here in this fantastic museum.